Hello, I'm Tom Sweeney from New Hampshire, and I'm very, very grateful to be here. My internet idea, I often use space crime. It's a play on space-time continuum, but also I write both science fiction, the space, and hard-boiled detective fiction, the crime, so I use space crime. At this workshop, I worked on four different pieces that combine the two genres together. And when you do that, sometimes it works very well. When it fails, it can fail spectacularly. And what I needed was a place where people could look at that and give me feedback. And what I wanted to hear was 8 people saying, "Wow, this is great! You know, this is don't change a word." But but I've read several times that for a writer, praise is like candy. It's delicious. No matter how much you get, you want more, but it's really not good for you. And what I needed was to be told the places where the stories didn't work and have, in a supportive environment, have them just burn it to the ground, and then from the ashes have a phoenix rise up and give me a great story. And that's what I got here, and I'm really, really grateful for that. But I'm a little noired out, so this piece is totally different. This piece is a more gentle piece. It involves a young Chinese woman, 30-ish, young for me, who stories take place in China. She has a partner, an American expatriate named Stevens, Walter Stevens. The young goes by Stevens. And in these stories titles involve proverbs, both the American proverb and an equivalent Chinese proverb. And sometimes they're identical, like fortune favors the bold, works in both languages. Others, my last story was the English one, American one was, you have to take the good with the bad. The Chinese equivalent would be not both ends of the sugar cane are sweet, but different, very different, but the same idea. This story is let sleeping dogs lie, and the best I could find was beat a bush, a snake appears. In both cases, leave well enough alone. So Chao Xing here is, she thinks she's a very cosmopolitan woman. She's been to, she lives at the foot of the Three Gorges Dam in Sandaoping, but she's been to Chongqing, a large city, several times, and she feels she's very cosmopolitan. But she's just been hired by an industrialist in Shanghai to come to Shanghai. The woman is paying both her and her partner to come to Shanghai and work on a case that she feels the police are not working on very well. So it starts off with her trip to Shanghai and her first visit to Shanghai. Whoops. Okay. The ferry from Sandaoping to Yichang was crowded and dirty as expected. Oh, this will help. Sorry. The ferry from Sandaoping to Yichang was crowded and dirty as expected, but the next ferry from Yichang to Shanghai was glorious. They had booked 2 small staterooms, but Chao Xing preferred to stand on the open upper deck, enjoying the breeze that both cooled her skin and aroused warm emotions of pride and heartache. Pride for what her China was becoming, taking its place in the modern world, yet heartache for the China fading away, the old China that still called to her so strongly. The speed of the ferry made the shore a swiftly changing pattern of color. It was beautiful, yet Chao Xing knew that had they moved at the speed of a sampan, the picture of the landscape she saw would not be so grand. A depressing chain of poor villages and inadequate houses, patched together sampans and floating debris would reveal the China she knew too well. She wondered if the new China were truly transforming the old China or merely disguising it with technological trickery. Recently, when hydrofoils began plying the newly created lake behind the Three Gorges Dam, she thought she would enjoy sailing the entire 600-kilometer length of the lake from Chongqing to Sandaoping. Now she wasn't so sure. Stevens joined her at the rail. "If you think this is something," he said, as though reading her thoughts, "you should ride the hydrofoil in the Yangtze behind the dam." "I don't think I'm ready to accept the dam yet, let alone the hydrofoil boats." "The dam and the hydrofoils are there whether you accept them or not," Stevens said. "You might as well take advantage." I wonder, thought Chao Xing, am I simply refusing to accept the inevitable, or am I remaining true to China? She puzzled on that question as the shoreline sped past. The boat rounded a bend with high banks and a vista open to a low, wide plain. She decided that both statements were accurate and somewhat interrelated. She would always be true to China, and one way was to reject any future not in China's best interest. Nothing is inevitable if enough good people refuse to accept it. The students at Tiananmen Square did not fail in their protest. They were part of a process that is still unfolding. A sad, tragic part, but a necessary one. But early the next morning, Chao Xing's first view of Shanghai made her realize how little she knew of China beyond Sandaoping and Chongqing. If the hydrofoils seemed a departure from the country she knew, Shanghai was another planet. Chao Xing considered herself metropolitan, city-wise, and sophisticated. She had been to university in Chongqing, had she not? But nothing in her life prepared her for Shanghai. She and Stephen stood at their usual place in the bow when a flash of light on the horizon caught her eye. "Did you see that?" she asked. "Yes, the Pearl TV tower, I think," Stephen said. "I cannot see any buildings yet." But as she spoke, the Shanghai skyline resolved itself through the mist, modern steel and glass buildings as she had anticipated. She felt a swell of pride at the sight. Most of these buildings had been built in the last 10 years. No country had ever modernized faster than her China. As they drew closer to Shanghai and the actual height of the Pearl TV tower became apparent, Chao Xing was unable to stop staring. It was one thing to know it was the tallest tower in Asia, quite something else to see it so high above the skyscrapers. "Looks like a spaceship, doesn't it?" said Stevens. "No," thought Chao Xing, "something even more fantastic, a giant wizard's wand." The tower was a spire stabbing into the heavens, an enchanted spire, passing through two huge spheres set hundreds of feet from the ground. A bend in the river gave her a slightly different perspective, and she saw the tower was a tall tripod supported by the lower sphere, but the upper sphere, it seemed to wrap itself around the tower and cling magically to the spire itself. Shanghai was a city for the gods. Thank you.